Welcome to Revive Ministries Podcast. This month's theme is It's Okay to Fall. I recently read a concept that says, forget the favors you have given your neighbor, but always remember the people who helped you along the way. Today we have a new guest. Her name is Dr. KIana. Dr. KIana Dancie. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing and just being part of the conversation. Really, I like how broad the scope when we think about failure and how we can learn from it, but also how we can see it as not just a failure, but much more. Thank you for coming on.
For sure. Thank you so much. I'm sorry someone wanted to make a special appearance here.
No, it's fine. I'm a dog person, so it's all good. So.
I'm like, mommy is busy. He was like, what?
He doesn't care. Anyway, I just want to share with those who are listening. If you are in crisis, if you are struggling, 988 is a suicide crisis lifeline. I do get a lot of people who are outside of the state, so I do like to mention some other notable suicide life hotlines. In Argentina is 911, hotline is 135, South Korea is 112, and the suicide hotline is 702-715-8600. Again, I always say people say it better than I do, and they usually do. So, but I'd like to start off with some notable people in history, which I start with Albert Einstein. I love what he says here. He says, it's not that I'm smart. It's just that I stay with the problem longer. When we think about some of the trials and tribulations we may have faced, or those who are struggling in the mental health community, or those with substance use issues, what comes to mind when you hear this quote? Anything that speaks to you when you think about problems and in this regard, in this quote?
Yeah, I actually really appreciate that quote, because I grew up in a household where my mother would give us 24 hours, no matter what we're going through, good, a bad day. Of course, our good days, we can linger in it long. Our good days, we can stay in it longer. But if we were having a bad day, I don't know, we went through a breakup, something happened at school, or just a rough time, my mother would give us 24 hours. She would literally set the clock. And the reason she would do that is she would say this. She said, hey, listen, I want you to know that I am respecting the fact that you have and are having a bad day. But keep in mind that life is very, very short. And if you sit in this, I'm going to give you 24 hours. And on that 25th hour, I'm going to come back to you and ask you, are you still having a bad day? Now, it's a decision that you can make. If you sit in it, that's on you. But the longer you sit in it, it does not change it. So you have to realize that we only get a certain amount of hours, a certain amount of years and days on this planet. Why waste it on things that we cannot change? So we get 24 hours to have the woe is me, bad day, worst day, move on. Yeah.
And I think it's a good practice on both ends, like especially even great news. The 24-hour rule, you celebrate, you commend yourself. You're like, I did really good in this. But at the end of the day, it's not about where you're at right now. It's where you want to be going. And it's a process of, one person said to me, I like this. It gives me a little bit more pliability, is the idea that our whole lives are always unfinished. If we allow ourselves to accept that, then we are allowed ourselves to think a little bit more broader and as not just one victory or one thing that goes right or one thing that goes really wrong, like as you as you
Yeah.
shared.
And I misread the quote. It says, I'm not that I'm so smart. It's just that I stay with problems longer. And
Mm,
I get it from an intellect like Albert Einstein. That makes sense. He sit with the problem longer to
mhm,
find a solution. But when looking from a mental health perspective,
mhm.
or some, when you're having a bad day or things didn't go right with you, you do not want to sit with those problems too long. You want to move on quickly.
Yeah, you don't want to get stuck. The idea is we are our own worst enemy sometimes. It's one thing working in the problem, it's another thing to getting stuck
Yeah.
in the problem. And I
Yes.
think there's a very difference when we think about those two concepts. But I think when it comes to problem solving, it's creative in nature. Like, I have context, I have background, just like you have context and background. It's foolish for us to not take that context to help us navigate through the
Yeah.
problems we face. So I never find it very helpful to have general broad statements. Oh, I should have or could have. Yeah, I understand that we want to better ourselves, but if we're not using the context or what we're experiencing, not to get stuck there, but maybe find better or unique solutions or creative ones, as
Yeah.
they say. So
Yeah. I
um,
agree.
and along those lines, it's I find that setting boundaries, just like you mentioned with your mom, I think that's a really great idea to kind of have those limits. You're saying, I'm not saying that I don't care about what you're going through. It's just I understand that we can, as human beings, have a ability to get stuck, and we don't
Yeah.
want to those habits of this is it, this is the end. And we know as teenagers we often see them get stuck in huge wide range of extremes emotions, but at the end of the day, you can't nothing changes if nothing changes. So you're either going to do something different, be open to something different, but that involves stress. A lot of people are like avoiding of stress, but stress is necessity.
Stress is life.
I know.
Yeah, but it's how you deal with the stress and how do you react to the stress. The thing is, I always say, even with my message, you're not the bags that you carry.
Mm.
You have to realize, yes, you're not your baggage. And many people say, I don't have baggage, and I always say, live a little longer. Live a little bit. Your baggage will come, stress will come, but you have to. How do you respond to that? Do you allow the stress to break you down? Do you allow your baggage to define who you are? And so you just have to make the decision that yes, life is stressful, but I'm not going to allow it to break me down. You figure out a way to work through your stress and not let your stress work through you.
Yeah, and I feel like how we define stress, I think it's just managing stress, not eliminating stress. Because if I have no stress, what happens? I do nothing.
Yeah.
I do absolutely nothing. If there's no stress,
Nothing.
nothing at all. So like there's healthy stress.
Yeah.
Some of the most notable events in someone's life, getting married, having kids or whatever. Those are stress.
Relocating. Yes.
Relocating. Those are stress, but those are healthy stress. Those are things that you would look back, you might see in a different lens. At that time, you're like, oh, I hate this. But
I agree.
yeah, so those are things that we have to understand. I think defining what stress is in our lives can be very helpful when we're navigating through some quote unquote failures, which are really just an opportunity to learn more about oneself. When I was in school, I read a lot of Mark. We're required to read Mark Twain. I remember this one quote I want to share: "The worst loneliness is not to be comfortable with yourself." The idea is like a lot of times the loneliness, people were like, "Oh, I want to be with people," not even really thinking really through that. But if you're not really happy with yourself, that can be some of the most darkest or kind of deepest loneliness, because you could be around people saying, "Oh, I got you. I'm here for you," and you're like, "No." So, anything that you want to comment or share when you see this quote?
Yeah, you have to definitely be comfortable with who you are, because you can be in a room full of people and still be alone, and you can still be lonely. But the thing is, you have to learn how to love yourself first. And then if you don't love yourself, find out why that is. What is it that you don't like about yourself and work on it? And the thing is, I'm always curious when people say, I don't like this, I don't like that. Well, but why? And if you don't like, if it's something physical, okay, well, you can do something about that. You can get in the gym, you can change your hair color, but what is the root of that you not liking it because someone else said they didn't like it?
That's a good point. And where are we getting our validation? Is it going to be external? You're going to be massively disappointed A
And
lot of times.
yes, and what are you comparing it to? Are you comparing yourself to someone else that you see? Do you have unrealistic expectations of yourself? If you're a size 14, you
Mm,
may not ever be a 2. And if
mm,
you are, is it healthy? And why do you want to be so small? And if you're a black woman, why all of a sudden you want to be white? Like, so you have to figure, and vice versa. So
yeah,
you have to
exactly.
figure out, what are your expectations? Why don't you like this about yourself? What are you comparing yourself to? You really have to take, I always say this, and looking externally you shouldn't just be looking externally. You should be definitely looking internally. Are you a good person? Are you consistent? Are you loving? Are you supportive? Those are the things that really attract those who attract good people to you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, sorry. I just had a little miss up, but
A little
yeah,
a little techo problem.
a little technical problem, but we're good. So yeah, I totally agree. I think that a lot of times we can, you know, the self-reflection and understand why does it matter so much that I am this or that. I think those are sometimes the best conversations, probably the most uncomfortable ones, and
Yeah.
that's important. Why is it so important that I look this way? Why is it so important that I achieve this? And I feel sometimes, because right now when I ask you, how are you doing? I say this. How are you? You can't hear me?
I can hear you.
How are you doing? A lot of times the question is answered, I am so busy. I am super busy, and it's a very impersonalness when it comes to that. And I feel, as we talk about insight, when we talk about how we view ourselves, we have to talk about some things that get lost in mental health, and it's our humanity, our human, our ability to say that I can make a decision or can I not? Am I always going to be a sick person? Or am I not?
You know what? And that's, I love that you brought that up, because I also wanted to mention social media. Social media puts a lot of pressure on all of us, and it's affecting our mental health. It's affecting our expectations of ourselves, where we are in life. I think ultimately, when you ask the question, like, where are we getting this from? I think there's a lot of voices. We're hearing a lot of, you literally can be scrolling through social media and you'll hear you can hear 3,000 different voices and perspectives in a matter of 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not mentally sound, if you're not, confident in yourself, you for sure can allow everything that you heard impede on your self-esteem and everything else. Mm-hmm. I think it's important that we understand that, one, social media is social lies. Mm-hmm. Two, a lot of people on social media they're just as broken as the rest of us. You know what I mean? So they're all going through something, and they're looking for validation in so many different areas. So I would encourage your listeners to not get caught up in what they see on social media. Really leverage solid relationships with people who love on you and celebrate you in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, and and think about working in the mental health field. There's two things that I usually hear a lot. I don't feel heard, and another thing I always hear, it's kind of interesting, is that I spend a lot of time trying to have people understand what I'm going through. I'm always disappointed. And the thing is, you're never really going to get people to understand what you're going through. And this is one thing that's really, they spend so much time trying to get the understanding, but the understanding is really for you. And eventually you're going to find what that means later, because unfortunately I've seen it. The what next in mental health is tricky. It's gray. That whole area, maybe you're stable, you learn some coping skills, you learn what works for you. But, at the same time, you're still able to make decisions. You're still able to navigate. You may have to navigate in a different way. You may need to take extra steps, but that's, people who've been through a lot of hospitalizations, a lot of things that cause a lot of strife and culturally it's harder depending on your background. I'm half Puerto Rican, half South Korean, so it's just confusing. So it's
Yeah.
just like you're just asking, it's like, am I a complete shame? Am I someone who's just incapable because of this, and this statement gets kind of reinforced because it gets comfortable when you get to that kind of lull before the what next is, and you ask yourself, well, you could be your own barrier yourself. Your family could be your own barrier. Your friends could be your loved one, your spouse, because they're like, I don't want you to get sick again. So we're going to try everything to stay static, but people are not static.
So and you're right. You're absolutely right. And I'll tell you, especially people of color tend to not retreat to mental health support because it's been looked at as weak or, you're crazy. But here's what I will tell you. First of all, my nickname is Yana. You are not alone. You are not alone in this. If you cut on the light, you'll realize there's other people who are going through some of the same situations that you are going through too. In addition to that, I want to tell you, I subscribe to something called PCP, not the drug. Prayer, couch, and prescription. Now, many times, so for those who don't pray, maybe you meditate. In a corporate space, maybe it's meditation, but I pray. I believe in God, and whoever you believe in, that's on you. But you do need to have a relationship with whoever you honor, your greater power, your universe, whatever. So that's where you start. And then, we have resources such as, when I say couch, therapists, counselors, psychiatrists, all of them are here to help us unpack our emotional baggage and to help us work through our mental issues so that we can, one, become sound, balanced human beings. And then that last one is P, prescription. Now, thank God I have not had the need of a prescription, but some of us have. If you are dealing with a chemical imbalance as far as depression, if you're dealing with something as bipolarism or schizophrenia, whatever your mental issues are, it don't have to be that serious or even that mild. Maybe you just have you have anxiety. At the end of the day, there is a prescription, if you need it, that can help you. Now, Robert, I want to also say this to you. If your doctor, and to your listeners, if your doctor is only prescribing a prescription, that's not the doctor for you. Your doctor should certainly be prescribing wraparound services. What's a wraparound service? It's support of support groups. Find you an organization that can help you work through some of the drama and the trauma that you deal with. Maybe it's bringing in your family, because at the end of my book, shameless plug. At the end of my book, Bye Bye Bags, Laughing to Lighten the Load, there are questions that actually you have to ask. Who helped you pack these emotional baggage that you carry? We did not get here. I'm a child molestation survivor. I didn't molest myself. So it had to get to the point where I had to say, okay, this is who molested me, and this is who helped me unpack my baggage, who was my mother and my therapist. So I think it's important that we acknowledge the fact that mental health is a real thing, and it's only going to get worse with all the things that we're dealing with in this world. There are people who are dealing with war. There's people who are not only war, like physically, there's war in their mind.
Yeah.
And that's one of the worst things.
Yeah. And I totally agree. And I appreciate you sharing that. I think another aspect, especially working in the field, is community. I think a lot of times it's vague. A person may be coming out, you mentioned, maybe experience sexual abuse, maybe experience something else. They don't want more people in their life, but they may want a community. They can start feeling like they belong to something. And that I feel sometimes when we think about how, talk about social media, but how things are so shattered in the sense of the home life, how people don't really connect anymore effectively. Community can be that one little drive of purpose. Now, I'm a Christian myself, and I find faith-based communities can be helpful, but you gotta be selective. You gotta be really helpful. You gotta be very intentional, just like you are with your doctors. Like if the place that you're going has a normalization of intolerance, I don't care what it is, then that's probably not the place to go. I'm just saying that.
I love that. Yeah, that's one of the words that I really think we need to kick around a little bit more, shove it in somebody's throat. Tolerance. We learn how to tolerate people more, think life will be much easier. It may not be, what you would do. It may not be what you would do. It may not be how you think, but you tolerate the differences. That's the beautiful thing about being a human being. We all come from different, we all have the same objective, but we have different obstacles. Life can be easier. The world can be more peaceful. Whether you pray to Allah or Jesus Christ or Buddha or whoever you pray to, or if you are pro-life or pro-choice, it don't matter, with others, because at the end of the day, none of us are without sin. None of us are perfect. So why worry about what's going on? Why worry about who loves who? Why worry? Because nothing that you're doing is going to affect me. Now, when I say this all the time to some of my Christian sisters and brothers, I would never have to go to my Lord Jesus Christ and say, Keisha had 4 abortions. That's not my business.
Exactly.
I don't care. And even though it may not be my cup of tea, I tolerate this. In my opinion, I must tolerate my sister and brother, because I don't know what will make her why her back is against the wall, that she may feel that she needs to do such a thing. If I feel like it's irresponsible, whatever, at the end of the day, it's not my decision.
I think also, and leading into that, and we're going to go into, I like to have my guests kind of share what brought them here, what made them do what they're doing today. But before that, I just want to say just a little side note. I think just the idea of kindness. Kindness doesn't need total understanding. I don't need to understand everything about you to be kind to you. I think that for once might be what we need in communities, is just to be kind. I don't know why people do what they do, but can we just be a little bit kinder to each other? That would be nice.
Yeah. Yes. Kindness go a long way. It goes a long way.
I want to, like I said, I like to give new and returning guests an opportunity to share about an update or a little bit about themselves to those who are listening. Since so the floor is yours to share, plug away, go ahead, do what you do, and go ahead.
So, I know people are like, who is this lady? So I'll start at the beginning. I always like to start at the beginning of who I am and what I got going on, alphabetically or in order. I am a actress, author, comedian, coach. Maybe the coach was supposed to go for comedian. Anyway, I'm a coach. I'm a comedian. I am a former national syndicated talk show host. I used to host a show called Sister Circle Live on TV1 that was shot here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a realtor. I'm a transformational speaker. And so what I do is I speak life into you. I have, and I'm an author. Did I say author? I don't know. So I'm an author. I wrote a book called Bye Bye Bags, Laughing to Lighten the Load, where I discuss healing myself whole through laughter. And I'll tell you, Robert, it wasn't easy getting to this place. It was not. I had a plastic surgery. It starts with a B, y'all. I don't know how to pronounce it, but once I tell you, you can go Google it. I had plastic surgery to remove the bags under my eyes. And as I was laying, it's blepharophy or something, but as I was laying in my bed and I was talking to God, I said, Lord, I need you to heal me younger, and I need you to heal me prettier. I done got this surgery. I need you to heal me, Father. And he said, you will heal prettier and you will heal younger, but you're ugly on the inside. You got work to do. Boom! Wait a minute. Who you calling ugly, Daddy? And he said, you can be rude, you can be curt, you can be disrespectful. He said, I don't like it. It's not godlike. Fix it. So while I'm laying in my bed, I got bandages over my eyes, and I'm like, wait, did I hear that? I sat up because I thought I was hearing something. That was the first time I've ever heard the Lord speak to me audibly. And I was like, hello? And he said, you heard me. He said, you're ugly on the inside. Fix it. So while I was healing from my external baggage, I started working on my internal baggage. Start unpacking the things that was preventing me from showing up in the rooms with the light. And I'm not talking about this light. I'm talking about this light, the light that shines from within me. The things that were hindering me from becoming my best self. I know better. Me being rude is not godlike. Me being curt or disrespectful or dismissive is not godlike. So I started working on the things. So I'm a child molestation survivor. I lost my dream job as a national syndicated talk show host, and I was in a long-term relationship that did not materialize into marriage. And to be honest with you, I let the enemy tell me that I wasn't worthy. I had work to do. And I carried that around. I carried that bag around as if it was law. And we know that the Lord has already forgiven us for everything, every sin we have already committed, because by the blood. And we also know that no matter what we've been through, we're not the bags that we carry. That's how I got here. So I just want people to know, regardless of what you've been through, no matter what you did, you've already been forgiven. No matter what you're struggling with, there is a place for you. You belong. The Lord loves you. And if you need a community, get down to the Facebook. You can find a community. There's communities all over Facebook.
Yeah.
And find your tribe. Find someone that will receive you with open arms. And stay in prayer. Stay in prayer.
I always kind of, when you get to the point where, even though it's tough and you're trying to sift through being accountable to yourself, you realize, you start to actually pull the mask off your face and start to say, oh, I'm not as great. I have propensities of maybe being kind of rude or kind of taking that, maybe trauma dumping, maybe just really just not thinking about the other person and what they're going through. Yes, they've been supportive. Yes, it's scary out there. Yeah. But at the same time, being honest, like, where am I now? Why does it matter to be so externally well, but not internally well? Yeah. Because go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I love that you said that. Externally, I look well, but internally, I'm not. So I would like to give you some tips for letting go of your emotional baggage, your excess baggage that you carry. And here's the thing, friend, men and women, we all carry baggage, and it doesn't look, it doesn't, it's not like you walk in a room with, well, some of us, I carry my bags under my eyes, but many of us don't even identify our baggage as a real thing. But you know what your baggage is, your drama and your trauma, whatever that is. If that's the first thing out of your mouth, I'm not, let it go. But here are 5 tips that I really want to give your listeners to, releasing their emotional baggage. And this is something I do every day. I do a mental check. I write in my journal. Second, shameless plug. I have a journal for sale on my website, KIanaDancie.com. First of all, you got to identify the root of the issue. No. First of all, you got to identify there is a problem. You have to say, you know what? Maybe I'm not so. Maybe I could be. So, you need to acknowledge that there is, in fact, a problem. Then you want to sit back and then identify the root of the issue. Because oftentimes, where did this come from? Is it generational? Is it something that you did? Is it something that you're currently doing? Try to narrow it down to a source. And if you can't, you might have to do some work. Sit with your friends. Like, okay, if you had to, what do you think about this? If I ask you about this. So someone will always have something to say, especially if you ask them for their opinion. And don't take it as law, but do add it to your little list to kind of figure out how and why can I become better. Be honest about your feelings. I think it's important that we actually, really be honest about our feelings, because oftentimes we are quick to say, it's not me, it's da-da-da-da, it couldn't be. Well, it is. It is. Then you want to, and so I'm all over the place a little bit, but I want to make sure we say this: forgive and extend grace. Yeah. To not only yourself, but to those who have hurt you. We're not perfect people. It's not possible. We're going to make some mistakes. We're going to rub you the wrong way. We're going to say something out of our mouth that sounded horrible. But extend grace, because first of all, hurt people. And then oftentimes you don't know what kind of day that person has. So, extend grace and give them say, hey, that really hurt my feelings, and be honest about it. It's not the last one, but I will say this was really important. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Remember, I said you are not alone. Once you hook up in a community, you'll find out that there's other people that's going through the things you're going through. And then what you can do is like, well, how did you work through it? What are some of the tips? Now, this is not trauma bonding. This is trauma. We are celebrating trauma conquering. How did you conquer your trauma? Show me. Walk me through it, because I'm going through. But now, because you have allowed yourself to open up, you have friends, you have family, you have people, you have other people that you don't even know. Say, hey, let me tell you what happened. This is what I did. One of my favorites is stop seeking validation. You're going to seek validation from the wrong people. And those people, they too are looking for validation. So stop it. The only person that you need to be concerned who cares or who validates you is, for me, is the Lord Jesus Christ. Set healthy boundaries, as we stated. Set your healthy boundaries. And then here's one of my favorites. And I'm still currently working on it. Declutter your space. That's mentally and physically. Sometimes you just need to say, I'm not using this no more. Let me get rid of it. If you haven't touched it in a long time. Now I'm gonna tell you, I'm one that will buy some clothes because I'm a size 8 today. I might be I don't know. I'm an 8 today. I might be a 6 tomorrow. Okay, don't judge me. I'm working through it. But declutter your space, because a healthy mind will reflect a healthy space, and vice versa. And last but not least, I know I gave you a lot. It's a lot to chew on. I'm going to say laugh and let go. You have to laugh and you have to let go. Life is very, very short. And the longer that you sit and woe and cry with it.
Yeah.
Change don't happen if you sit there and moan and groan about it. You got to get up and do something. And that starts with actually changing your mindset. So once you change your mindset that you want to make something happen, get up, arch your back, hold your head high, men and women, fix your crown, grab your bags, the bags that has been holding you hostage. And I want you to do 3 things. Write down one thing that reminds you of insecurity, a shortcoming, and a failure. And I want you to tear it up. And as soon as you can, in a safe place, I want you to burn it up, because you're done.
I feel there's when we allow ourselves not just forgiveness and also kindness to others, but to ourselves, we allow that space to do that.
Yeah.
The thing is, we are impressive human beings. At the same time, we can be impressive and unimpressive. We're kind of one of those enigmas when it comes to human beings. We can be exceptional at something and so unimpressive at the same time. And it's funny if we're allowed to ourselves to laugh at it, because at the same time, I've worked in the mental health field. I've seen and I've heard, and what I've noticed is all this stuff matters because of the people who are connected to it. So and be kind to my parents, the parents who may not have experienced this generation and these changes, and they won't understand, but they'll love you and try to help you as much as they can. Don't expect them to understand. And the fact of the matter is, you'll work through it. And if you're kind to yourself and kind to them, it will just look and shape different. You'll be asking or needing validation from them. You'll be there appreciating their time with you, because at the end, the sad part is, well, not sad, but our lives are always unfinished, and that's a good thing. That means there's more to write. And so at the same time, I would encourage those who just appreciate them. Sometimes appreciate the monotony, appreciate the excitement, appreciate when someone says something nice to you. Be kind to those. Because kindness go a long way. Yeah. Less is sometimes more. Why do you need so much? I'm saying in the essence to everyone. If sometimes, quality time doesn't mean quantity. Sometimes I can spend an hour with someone and I get so much more than the whole weekend of plans. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like anything else, as we go through life, a lot of times we get stuck. Those safe places, those communities that you kind of shared, and those tips, I do appreciate them. But one quote I want to share as we kind of wrap things up is, a ship isn't harbor safe, but it's not what a ship are built for. So we're built to go out. We're built to connect. Connect. So it's going to be, like you mentioned, vulnerability. It's going to be uncomfortable. I say to myself, expect uncomfortability. Like if you're going to start running, if you haven't ran for a while, we all know it's going to suck. We all know you're going to have all these pains and your legs are going to feel like, what they're going to feel like the next day. But if you expect it, but if it's something important, I feel that, that in itself can be.
And I would add to that, Robert, I would say not only expect it, welcome it. Welcome it, because there is no growth in you don't grow in comfort. You have to stretch yourself and learn and know that, at the end of the day, if I'm going to get anywhere, I'm going to have to stretch, and I'm going to have to be slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah. I was in the Air Force in 2000, 2004. We used to say, there's like a lot of branches. Embrace the suck. Embrace suck, because it does. But when you embrace and you go through those hard moments, you start to feel like what you're doing, who you are, may be more valued. You're more valued than you may think. You may be in this rut. You may be feeling uncomfortable. Maybe you made some bad choices. Who hasn't? What can you do now? What communities can you start to connect to? Who can you apologize to? Who can you help? What problems can you focus on instead of looking at the problem as something that's permanent or has some permanence? How can you make small steps and address those problems? And those are the things that can really help. I have a couple, like one question and the final thoughts. I really appreciate you coming on. It's okay to fall is the theme of this month. What do you think is important for us to remember as we try to navigate through our failures? And then after that, your final thoughts.
Failures are necessary to the wins. I always say, let's fall up. Let's fail up. And through the process, you're going to fall. And if you don't, you never appreciate your win. So you got to understand that failure is a part of the process and welcome it. If you fail, what are the lessons that you learned in that failure? Pay attention, because those lessons are oftentimes the biggest and the best lessons that you can ever learn.
Thank you. Any final thoughts as we wrap up? It's been great having you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you. You guys can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at KIANA. Last name is DANCIE. That's also my website, KIanaDancie.com. My book is there. My journal is there. I want you to remember that you're not the bags that you carry. No matter what you've been through, no matter what deeds you did, you have been forgiven. And I also want to remind you to take some time and think about a couple things. Write down an insecurity, a shortcoming, and a failure. Once you write it down, I want you to tear it up and I want you to burn it up. Never be held hostage by the things that you wrote on that paper. Let it go. Move forward.
I just want to share with those who are listening, all the her website, all that will be in the notes, so you could go ahead and click it and find out more of what she's doing. Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm speaking all over the world. I'm so excited to work with anybody. So please send me a message on KIanaDancie.com. Thank you so much. I just kicked off my collegiate college tour at University of University of South Carolina. And so thank you. That University of New Mexico is coming, I guess. But I look forward to seeing you guys all over the world, wherever you are. Let's just make this happen.
Thank you again. I just want to share with those who are listening. Remember to stay updated. ReviveMinistries.com. ReviveMinistriesFL.com is our website. This is leaving you with the last quote from M. Scott Peck. I like what he says. Until you value yourself, you won't value your time. Until you value your time, you will not do anything with it.
That's a good one.